This video will contain spoilers from the off, so remember, you've been warned. Okay, this was definitely an interesting episode and one that is going to cause a large divide in the audience. It wasn't in the traditional style of a Black Mirror episode, and it delved into the supernatural, something that the show hasn't really done before. Focusing on Mazey Day, an actress whose mental health was on the decline following her being involved in a hit and run, we also followed Beau, who was looking to capture the first photo of her in weeks, with the reward of $30,000. However, morality, humanity, exploitation, and sympathy were all things that would get in the way. So with that, let's break down and explain all that there was to take away from this episode, and also call out any hidden Easter eggs. Here is Black Mirror Season 6 Mazey Day Ending Explained. This was an episode that is most definitely out there on its own in the Black Mirror universe. To be honest, I feel like this is a style of episode that Inside Number 9 would do, and despite being two relatively similar shows at their core, tonally they're very different and they hold different territories and spaces. This episode was focused on Beau, who was a photographer who would take damning photos of celebrities ranging from A-listers to Z-listers, depending on the situation that they were in and how much the price was for the photo. The episode was set in the early to mid-2000s, judging by the technology that was present, and also the fact it said 2006 at the top of a newspaper. So I imagine the culture of the photographers acting like this was a lot more present back then due to the fact that there was no social media like in the modern day, where now anybody can snap a pic of a celebrity that they see around. The photographers were painted out to be these type of vultures that viewed their subjects as merely subjects, not human beings, and I think that's where the main overarching theme of the episode came from, and why we saw Mazey Day ultimately transform into a werewolf when the time came in the final third of the episode. We saw that a photograph that Beau took and sold to a newspaper of Justin Camley, a Sea of Tranquility star, caused him to end it all when it was released, due to the embarrassment and shame that he felt on having an affair with a man, despite being in a marriage to a woman. So it showed that the photographs that got taken did have a direct consequence and could directly be tied back to the person who took the photo. We even saw other photographers calling celebrities insults and slurs in order to get a reaction to make their photos more sellable, so it painted them out to be the bottom of the barrel type of humans. People that would pounce, meticulously plan, and stalk their prey like some kind of animal. Mazey was part of a hit and run whilst filming for a production in the Czech Republic, and we saw that after she hit the person, her mentality took a hit and she changed drastically. She was on medication for her mental state and she recruited Dr. Babbage, a doctor to the stars, in order to try and help her. We thought that she was just having a mental breakdown, but it turned out that she was actually transforming into a werewolf at night, something that I didn't expect to see happen. So why was this? Well, I believe that Mazey viewed herself as a monster following what happened. She left the man lying on the floor dying and she got away with it, something that was on her mind and she wasn't able to get over. I think she viewed herself as the monster that not only she viewed herself as, but the image of what the press would have seen her as too. The sheer amount of flashes that were going off inside of the cabin when Beau discovered Mazey really highlighted the mindset of the photographers and the disassociation that they had. She was being kept in a horrific state, but there was no human instinct that stepped in, only the paycheck and exploitation. Even though there was a weapon that was being fired at Mazey when she was the werewolf, I feel the weapon represented the camera, and it showed that the camera was just as powerful as what that was, ultimately meaning that every photo that got taken meant that it could result in there being blood on the photographer's hands. The press have a voice and a large way of morphing public opinion in society, and the photos, well, they're the damning evidence, so they do hold a lot of power. With Beau finishing off with taking the photo of Mazey on the floor after the entire diner had been butchered and Mazey was back in her human form, the weapon being fired along with the camera shutter snapping, it reiterated the importance of the comparison between both tools. It was a dark episode for sure, a supernatural one, and one that did require a lot of thought afterwards, because it wasn't the clearest. Now let's move on to the Easter eggs. This is always one of my favourite parts, going back through the episode and looking for any hidden Easter eggs that I might have missed the first time round. Well, there were a couple of Easter eggs in this episode. One of the first ones that was seen in the episode was that Justin Camley, the individual who Beau first took the photos of, was a star in the TV show Sea of Tranquility, a fictional show that has previously popped up in the likes of the national anthem, most notably in Nosedive, and also in this season in Joan Is Awful. It feels like they're really pushing the Sea of Tranquility. Another one was when Bo was taking a photo of the celebrity Sydney Alberti. She was going into the Quagmire Club. This club had the same name as the one that we saw Kelly and Yorkie going into in the Season 3 episode San Junipero. The police officer in the Emerald Pines diner was called C. Rittman. This is a callback to Colin Rittman, who was a character in the episode Bandersnatch, and has previously also had other Easter egg appearances in this season. And finally, the coffee shop that Bo worked at for a small period of time after quitting the photographer's gig was called Yorkie's Coffee Bar, which is named after the character in Season 3's San Junipero. I couldn't actually spot that many in this episode of the show, not like the first two. So if I have missed any, then feel free to comment them below. Overall review. Okay, I'm going to be really honest with this one. I wasn't a huge fan, and it pains me to say it because I love Black Mirror. I would actually put it down there with the likes of Rachel, Jack and Ashley 2 and also the Waldo moment. The concept was cool, but the execution was something that I just don't think landed, nor did the overarching message. Their performances were great, really good, but I think the runtime was something that also hurt it. The fact that it was only around 40 minutes, when the average episode sits at around 50, and we also had some episodes in Season 6 that were almost an hour and a half. It ultimately meant that this one just felt extremely short, a bit rushed, and maybe didn't have enough time to get the point across. I liked the comparison in having the cameras being spoken about as being as powerful as a weapon, but I think it was just a tad confusing when watching. The werewolf didn't look too bad, which was my main concern when I saw the transformation happening, because I always fear for the CGI and effects when inclusions like that happen. But there were some moments that did look a little off and jarring on the eye, such as when they were running through the forest. It just looked extremely unnatural. I believe Charlie Brooker is a horror fan, and you can definitely sense the influence that it had on this episode, the uncomfortable nature of the score that would be behind it, the track constantly being played whenever Mazey would think of that fateful night, and also the almost jump scares that you'd have with the werewolf. So there were some good elements, but my biggest problem with it was its identity, and the fact that it probably felt 30% Black Mirror and 70% something else, which I think is a shame. When you're doing 6 episodes, especially of a show like Black Mirror, there's always a chance that there's going to be a dud. We were blessed with Season 3 and Season 4 being near on perfect iterations of the show, and truly cementing and embodying the identity. However, this one was just one that missed the mark slightly. This is an episode that I may actually never watch again. Not because I dislike it, but because the enjoyment that I got out of it was nowhere near on the same level when compared to the other 3 episodes that came before it, and also many of the other episodes from Season 1 to Season 4. So it's a shame. But at least it's not one of 3 like in Season 5, and there are 4 other episodes that surround it. So, there you have it. Black Mirror Season 6 Mazey Day Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos such as Endings Explained, Theories and Predictions and Character Breakdowns, then click on the I button, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this episode? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.